What do you do when your family is the first one to tell you you're ugly or stupid? Sometimes a child's first bully is their parents, or their parents, or their family members, brothers, sisters. Brothers and sisters, parents can be the first one that's telling you you're ugly, telling you you're too skinny, telling you you're too fat, telling you you're too tall, telling you that you don't have enough boobies, telling you your butt's too flat or it's too big, telling you that your fingers are skinny, things that you're not even thinking about. Your hair is stringy. Why do you look like this? Why is your chin like that? Why is your lips like this? Why do you walk like that? Why you breathe like that? Why do you have so many pimples? Why is your foot so big? Why is your foot so little? Why is your head so big? Why is your forehead like that? Why is your back like that? They are the first ones. This is not in all families, but you know, this happens a lot. I can't remember the YouTube channel I've watched. Oh, I wish I could remember. It's a very unusual name for the channel. It starts with a T. I should know better. But it's something where this female, she goes and she asks people different things like, uh, what's something you wish you had said? What regrets do you have in life? What's the most painful thing you have heard or you've been told? And I was so surprised with this specific episode how many people were saying things that they were told was by their parents, their mom, their dad, just saying things. And as parents, we have to be so careful the things that we say out of our mouths. Everybody is human, and being a parent, it is challenging at times, especially when you have life, you have life to navigate, you have your job, you have the pressures, the challenges that you're going through. Even if you don't have pressures or challenges, you may be in charge of things, but even if you are in charge and if you everything is going your way, you still have to be responsible. You still have things to do. You have different things to face. You have a child, children. There are different things that's coming, and everything is not always going to be going in your favor. The car needs work. The roof needs to be looked at. All these different things are going on. School pressure, you passed your exams, you didn't. Sickness in the body, diagnoses, breakups, makeups, relationships, divorce, marriage on the rocks, trying to work it out. There's so many things that you are dealing with as a parent, and it is understandable, but you still have to be careful the things that come out of your mouth to your children. And when you open your mouth and you say something you should not say, you should be willing, you should be quick to correct yourself. A lot of times when parents open their mouth and they say things they shouldn't say, it comes out, they hear it sometimes if they are still in the position where they can still hear themselves and think of how messed up that was, but they'll let it go. They know that they were wrong, but they add more salt to the wound and they're going to blame the child and they're going to say, well, yeah, that's what it is. And they just ignore it and they let days pass, weeks, and then all of a sudden they just move on to the next thing and they never acknowledge what was said to the child. So that seed of hurt and pain is planted in the child, left there to germinate until the next time they hurt them again and add something else. And parents are often, I always say sometimes there are parents who sees their children as garden gnomes. They're as inanimate of or as inanimate or as animate to them as a vacuum cleaner or the blender or a stick of butter in the fridge, just there for their use. And they're not thinking about what they're saying. They're thinking, well, you deserve that. You shouldn't have said it. That's what it is. And then they think of, well, I'm entitled to talk to you this way, or you can handle it because after all, I'm the parent and I'm dealing with all these things, and I'm trying to keep you alive, and I'm trying to keep you well, and I'm taking care of all these things in the world, and you're going to pout about me telling you that I wish you were dead. Get over it. But that is a mistake. Words matter, and they linger, and they last. And so therefore you have children who are told the most horrible things. They're bullied by their own families. They're told that they're stupid. They're told they're not smart. They told they're ugly. If they're told, oh, you look just like your mother, your father, and if they're not together anymore, get out my sight looking like your dad, or get out my sight looking like your mom. You're just you're a whore like your mother, or things like that. You're just like your dad. I hate you. I wish you were never born. I should have aborted you. I should have given you up for adoption. I wish I never had you. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? What is that child going to do with that? And then on top of it, the child has no way to vent. They can't talk back. Otherwise, there are going to be consequences. So they're left by themselves. Imagine it's like the parent just took a blade and just sliced them open and leave them bleeding. And the child just walks away with this wound, has no idea what to do, and they just walk off trailing, bleeding, and they just go in their room and shut the door. And all they could do, they see that they're bleeding, they just grab a towel and stick it there, or try to lay on the pillow, and the pillow's getting soaked, and they're just trying to figure out what to do, and they patch it and do their best, and hopefully it ends. These are the things that's going on because a child is now left with their own pain, left with their own thoughts. They don't have an outlet. The parents don't think that they are worth anything above the stick of butter in the fridge, simply there for use and to be discarded when necessary. A lot of times parents will have the God mentality. I created you. I made you. Life is possible because of me. Without me, you would not be here. Without me, there would be no life. I gave you your face. I am the reason why your heart is beating. I am the reason why you're walking and talking. So they don't care. And there's this confusion because then you have some parents, one minute they're wounding you, and the next minute they're telling you they love you. One minute they're hurting you, and the next minute they're just talking to you like nothing happened, and they expect you to adjust and they'll start laughing and talking to them like nothing has happened. So you learn to readjust. You have to smile. You have parents who are wicked and evil enough to say horrible things to their children, even physically hurt them, and tell the child to smile in the midst of hurting them or having said something to them in front of everybody. But words matter. And before you know it, just like seeds, you plant it in their heart and it begins to germinate, and that child begins to believe certain things about themselves. They may get to a point where you're able to control them and they cannot live productive lives because they believe that they're not worth anything. So they stay on your front porch all their lives, and these parents are using and abusing them. The child grows up and work becomes the work mule, bringing them home things, taking them to their appointments, unable to have any sort of meaningful friendships or relationships because they're broken. They're just a shell of themselves, and they don't believe that they're worthy of anything because of the words that the parent has said. Then you have other children. As soon as they get a chance, they break free, they run off. They don't want to have anything to do with their parents, can be hostile towards them. The parents are wondering what's wrong. Why don't you want to have anything to do with me? What's going on? And those same parents are expecting that child to turn around and care for them and to love them and to support them. But I always say, how can your child give you something that you never gave to them? How will they know to love and support you and to be loyal and true and all these things to you when you did not give it to them. You were a whole adult. You were an adult. They were vulnerable small children depending completely on you. And these parents treated them poorly. They had to fend for themselves. They had to figure out what they were going to eat. They're just tall enough to eat what was on the bottom shelves in the refrigerator because they're left alone, or some old spoiled food, moldy bread, eating around the mold, trying to, or not eating at all. Being subject to all these things, hearing horrible things being said to them, and believing these things, depositing all these things, internalizing these things, can't see themselves as beautiful, being mistreated. A lot of times when the parents are bullying them, then they allow other people to bully them too. They will pit them against the other children, embarrass them, laugh at them. All these things happen, and now the child is grown up and they're completely distant from you and or from these parents, and the parents are like, "Oh, well, what's wrong? Why can't you treat me right? Oh, you should love me." They don't know how to because you gave them no example. They have nothing. They have no source of love. They have no source of what loyalty would be and what protection would be. They have nothing to work off of because it was not given to them. Those things were not deposited or demonstrated to the child. So how can they give it to you? And if you did not give it to them when they were little and small, when they loved you with all their heart and all their being, it's called the filial love that a child will have. And they loved you so much, or loved these parents so much, and they destroyed them. How can you expect that now? Ah, I know, because you're the parent. I'm your mom. I'm your dad. The God mentality comes in. I created you, and because of me, you're breathing and walking and talking, and your heart is beating because of me. You're blinking because of me. That's my face you're wearing. Those are my DNA that's sticking outside your head in the form of hairs. You pluck it out, and there's a bulb of me there. But listen, that child, that vulnerable child at the point when they were depending on said parents, were also you. They were your DNA, and it did not matter. So then the child is distant. They move away, want nothing to do with the parents. And now they have to go through life trying to, hopefully, you will know if you were bullied and you were hurt by your parents that you do not now go through life trying to do the same things to other people, but recognize that you will need counseling. And I always tell people, don't, if you grew up in a toxic environment and you grew up in an environment where people mistreated you and it was not good, do not leave that environment and think, oh, well, I'm better than them. You already living in an environment or raised in an environment where the standard was low. And what you may think is that you have arrived and you're better. It's still not it's still not sufficient enough for you to survive and for you to navigate life in a healthy way unless you get counseling, you get the help that you need to go through those layers and to pinpoint and to identify those things that's been placed in you through those words by your parents. So it's going to be sitting with a counselor if you can afford one. You are fortunate enough these days to be able to get free counseling on social media because this was not always a thing. You can also get one-on-one counsel from individuals, these specialists, people who are actual certified and licensed to counsel you for far less than what it would cost. And a lot of times you can get so much. So you need to look up things about narcissistic parents, abusive parents, being bullied by your parents, how to, and they have a lot of books and things of that nature, things that you can do, okay? You can pray. There's a lot of ways, and even with prayer, you still need to take practical measures to make sure that you do not come out as a new make and model of abuse. And you're not going to be able to see it because you're going to think you're doing things differently and better. You're going to compare yourself to the low standard and say, well, I'm not doing that. But again, as I said, That was a poor standard, a low standard, a toxic standard. So you can't compare yourself to that. That's not what you compare yourself to. You set the bar should be set at a level that you're not used to, and you strive for that so that you don't become that. Because if you're not careful, what you're going to find out is you're going to realize you're pretty good with your mouth. You're pretty lippy. You know how to cut people with your words. You know how to talk back. You know how to be spicy and saucy. And it's a defense mechanism that you may have developed over time because you're used to being hurt. You're used to defending yourself. It's not always a case like, say, you grew up in New York, you grew up in Brooklyn and New York like I did. Every day you need to have something to say. You need to have a combat because in school, in class, we'll do what we call joning on one another. You have your mama jokes, all this stuff going on all day. You got to be on your toes. You got to be ready to talk. You have to be ready to kick back and say whatever. But sometimes it's also because the person has been in defense mode, trying to protect themselves, and eventually they learn how to argue back. They begin to lash out on their parents. Some become abusive. Some, they hate their parents. They'll fight them. They're just waiting for the moment to be able to physically hurt their parent. And while there's a reason for it, it's not the right thing to do. There are times it might be self-defense if your parent is attacking you and they're trying to hurt you, but just beating up your parent because you're strong enough to do it now, just don't do it. Because what you do, you're going to get it back. What you sow, you're going to get it back. And because they do evil does not mean, because they did you wrong, does not mean you need to do wrong back to them. The best thing you can do is succeed. The best thing you can do is move on. The best thing you can do is become everything that they said you would not be. And it's not because you're living to please them, but because you you defied those odds. Despite what they try to do and say, you push beyond those things, and that is commendable. And you'll be able to help other people. And parents, you need to be very careful. Those careless words that's spoken as a joke, quote, I'm doing an air quote, oh, I'm just joking. You're just so sensitive. You're too soft. It's not that. You are unkind. You are out of place. You should not be doing that as a parent. As a parent, you should be careful of the things that you say out of your mouth. And the truth of the matter is, why would you take pleasure as a parent in hurting your child and bringing up their insecurities and embarrassing them? A lot of times you're going to find parents who, for some reason, just they're so unhealthy in the mind. What they've done is they were mistreated, and continue to they continue to this cycle of abuse from generation to generation. And again, they're following the standard of, oh, well, I'm not as bad as, oh, you think you have it as bad as me? Your children don't know anything about how bad you had it. As far as they're concerned, you are the worst. As far as a child's concerned, the parent is the worst because you're the one that they know. You're the terror that they know. And it's worse for them because they were born with a filial love for you. So you're the one that can cause the most damage. These parents can cause the most damage to you. So it's odd how sometimes parents will be this way. They're bullies, they're destructive. A lot of times these parents had the children, as I told you, it was by accident. They were not planned. They just had the child. They thought that a lot of times the men were being careless, and they had the child, so they don't have the love or the preparation for the child, and they're frustrated with their lives, and they take it out on the children. Sometimes the women, they didn't plan it either, or they planned it. Oh, I'm gonna trap me this man, and then it doesn't work out, and they hate the children. So now the child looks like their dad, and they hate that child, or the child comes out just beautiful and the mother is jealous. Even the father could be jealous of their sons, jealous of their daughter. Can you understand this? I don't understand this. I think I might have done a video on this already. I have to check my little vault of information. If I already done one, then just check out my videos. If not, I'll work on it. Just jealous parent, hateful parents, just jealous and mean and being bullies. And what you do is you destroy the spirit of your children before they've even had a chance in life. And then on top of it, they go to school and they're being bullied at school and they're going through all these things at school. And then they come home to you, or you reinforce it. Imagine a parent sitting there and bullying the child and allowing other people or even friends to be in the house bullying and talking down their children. And the parent does not protect them. I don't think any of us can ever imagine what that would feel like. So parents, it's not a joke. It's not funny. You're not just kidding. No, it's coming from somewhere dark and hateful and unkind for you to open your mouth and to say something that will hurt your child about what they look like. And if anything, they look funny, it's your fault. It's your DNA. And if they look funny and they look like soggy bottoms, it's your fault for who you messed around with. So who are they going to blame? They came out, they got 23 chromosomes from you, mom, and 23 chromosomes from dad. So if you went ahead and decided you want to mess around with some guy who's somewhere in his family, he's got, what's his name? Smeagol DNA in his family, that's your fault. So if you calling your child ugly and if you calling your child all kinds of names, well, you the one that's carrying that platypus DNA, because that baby had nothing to do with it. You understand? Come on, stop playing. Children will always go through their phases. But you know what? Let them be. Encourage them. Instead of saying something mean, say something positive. And you know what? If saying something positive to your child and being kind to them is tough and hard for you, and it just can't come up. It's like you're bringing up a just phlegm out your throat, or it's just difficult. It's like it gets stuck. It has a lot to do with you. It means inside of you, there's something negative there. And it has a lot to do with those parents. There's something negative in them, something very bad and dark. And because there's nothing but bad deposits inside of them, they can't. It's almost like for them, it's like chewing on some razor blades for them to say something kind and positive to you. So it's not you. What they do is they're throwing out themselves. It's like they're throwing up on you. You understand? When people are bullying you, they're thrown up. They're miserable. They're evil. They don't have any self-control. They're impulsive. They have no control of that venom. And it's easy for them to cut down another human being. It's easier for them to cut down their own child than to stop and to think and to say something good. It's hard for people who have nothing good inside of them to say something good. So I hope you guys can be encouraged by this. I'm not trying to bring down anybody's family members, but I'm just putting it into perspective. Families can often be the first one to bully their children and to say horrible things, and words must never be used carelessly. And when you have done these things, you must be big enough to go to your child and apologize for what you have said, and to be sincere and not bring up, we don't want to hear nothing about your childhood and, well, you didn't have it as bad as me. We don't want to hear those half-bit apologies. We don't want to hear, well, if that's how you felt about it, I was in labor with you for 21 hours and nobody asked you to have me. We must be sincere in your apologies. And when you apologize, don't do it again. And parents, what you're going to find is if you find yourself keep messing up and doing it over and over again, it means you lack discipline. And if you lack discipline and you can't control your mouth, then how can you now be sitting around here getting on your child when they not listening, or for them messing up? Why are you putting them on punishment? Shouldn't you be also in timeout? Give your child some grace. Do self-evaluation, and definitely know for a fact that words have power that goes a long time and sticks with that child. So be careful what you say. All right, guys. Bye.